Aha. Oluwaseun says he's a student nurse, but he has a license to practice midwifery. Very interesting. We also have Ugo, who is an IT technical support engineer in Lagos. That is great. Welcome, Ugo. Welcome, Taye. We have Taye Oni on the call. Okay. Thank you. Please keep the introductions coming, and once in a while, I will look at it to say hello to everybody who is on the call. Okay, so we are going to dive straight into today's webinar, and today we have an amazing speaker who is going to walk us through how to build global partnerships and position your tech career for the UK Global Talent Visa. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Mr. Oluwagbeminiyi Ariyo Agbaje. He is can I see your hands? Can we put our hands together for our speaker today? Thank you, Miracle. Thank you. Our guest, Mr. Gbeminiyi, is a software engineer with over 6 years experience designing, building, and scaling fintechs and digital banking infrastructure across Nigeria. He is currently serving at CoralPay Technology. He architected a builder aggregation platform connecting over 120 billers and 40 financial institutions. Throughout his career, Mr. Gbeminiyi has developed high-impact engineering solutions for some of our leading financial institutions like UBA, First Bank, Zenith Bank. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Gbeminiyi again, because we are able to use some of our banking services thanks to Mr. Gbeminiyi. Academically, he holds a master's degree in computer science from the Redeemers University. Excellent. That's my alma mater, by the way. And he has earned certificates in information security. Mr. Gbeminiyi is an active participant of Model United Nations, where he engages with global policy diplomacy, international affairs, and on the world stage. Today, he will be sharing practical insights on his skills, mindset, experience, and what makes today's technological professionals competitive on the global stage. Please, everyone, let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Gbeminiyi. I want to see your hands. Let's put our hands together while we welcome Mr. Gbeminiyi. Give us fire, give us hearts in the comments. Mr. Gbeminiyi, hi. Welcome to today's webinar.
Hi, good day, everyone. And thank you for having me on today's webinar. Just real quick, I'm just going to share my screen so that we can have an interactive section in today's webinar.
So while Mr. Gbeminiyi is giving us his amazing presentation, if you have any questions, please drop it in the chat box, and along the line, we are going to take some of the questions. Thank you. Mr. Gbeminiyi, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. And once again, good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Please just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen really quick. Yeah, so I'll start with a question, and I want you to sit with it for a moment before I actually answer it. And that talks about what we're actually here today. Ask yourself that if you're stripped off of your job title, your company name, let's say your LinkedIn endorsement, and your fancy certificates, what will you actually have left, right, with you? And what will you carry across the borders, across industries, and across economic downturns? So let's have that question. Let it resonate within us before we go ahead. So I'm going to call this your professional passport, right? And this is a physical passport that tells a border agent where you're from. but your professional passport actually tells the world your worth, regardless of where you're from. Today, I want to talk to you about the skills that actually travels, right? Not the ones that look impressive on paper, and not the ones that trending Twitter trends actually tells you what to learn. And this is actually not the ones that have the shiny certificates, either your certificates on your LinkedIn or on your curriculum resume. So, I mean, these are the skills that when you walk into a room, whether the room is in Lagos, London, San Francisco, Singapore, this is actually what tells people and make them to stop and say that we need this person really quick. And because here's what I've actually come to understand deeply, right? When you talk about the global economy, it's not just waiting for any of us, right? It is moving and it is shifting. It is being redefined by AI today, which is also called, which we can also call artificial intelligence, by global realignment, and by a new generation of builders, right? Who don't need permissions from legacy institutions. And the professionals who are striving it are not necessarily the ones with the most degrees, right? Or the most years of experience. They're the ones who have built skills with universal gravity. Now let's take this further, whereby we'll talk about uh, the technical skills that we currently have today and the greatest minds that we also have in the tech space today. I want to challenge something that many of us were actually told early in our careers, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and even if you're just starting, maybe this is your first year in your career, and you were told, learn to code and you'll be fine, or get this cloud certificate and the doors will open, or master this framework and you always have work. Frameworks like Play Framework, Spring Framework, and even programming languages, right? And you always have work. And look, I'm actually not here to dismiss some technical skills, right? Because these are actually the foundation, right? These skills are actually the ones that we have today that sort of serve as our foundation, our building blocks, and we can actually still build on this foundation. You cannot build a skyscraper, let's say, without a foundation, right? But here's the uncomfortable truth, right? That nobody puts in the career brochure. Technical skills are actually the entry ticket, right, into any market you find yourself, but they are not the destination, right? And I'm also going to prove this to you with a thought experiment, right? On your screen, imagine two developers. Both can write clean code, let's say Python, Java, or C#, and both understands the REST APIs, they understand SOAP APIs, they even understand how to write clean code. And they also both have GitHub profiles that looks like Christmas trees in December. During December, you have to like check everything you've done for the year. You always be seeing, you have to see green boxes all over. And developer A solves problem brilliantly in isolation, right? She delivers a code, it works, right? And she goes home. Now, if you look at developer B, she does something different, right? It doesn't just solve the problem, he understands the problem, he communicates clearly about the trade-offs of the problem, and he documents his reasoning, right? His thought process on what he has done in solving the problem. Now, he asks the question nobody else thought to ask, but what happens when the system scales to a million users? It makes people around him think better. Now, at the end of the day, who actually gets promoted between developer A and developer B? Who gets the remote contracts with international teams, and who gets recommended at the end of the day? I believe we all know the answer. And this is to tell us that the global market is saturated currently with technical competence. And what it hungers for is what it will pay a premium for, right? Is technical competence wrapped in human intelligence. And this is actually what we are here to talk about. So going forward, I'm going to be walking us through 7 skills, right, that actually travels, right? From problem framing to communication to system thinking to learning agility, collaborative intelligence, which talks about making things smarter, and down to ethical judgments. So let's dive down into it. I'm starting with problem framing. Now, problem framing is not just about the problem solving itself, right? In today's world, most professionals are trained to solve problems, while few are trained to actually frame them. And I'm going to be giving you a little distinction of what I mean by problem framing, which is quite different from problem solving, right? Problem solving is answering the questions in front of you, right? While problem framing is stepping back and asking, are we even solving the right problems, right? Are we supposed to solve this problem? And one of the things I've come to realize is that the world's most competitive tech professionals, the ones hired by Google, DeepMind, McKinsey Digital, by top tier startups in Silicon Valley, are not necessarily the fastest coders, right? They are the ones who can look at a complex, messy situation and give it a shape, this particular approach, right, in terms of communication. Many of us were raised in cultures where speaking up to authorities felt disrespectful, right? Where disagreeing with a superior was a taboo, where silence was interpreted as respect. But when you look at the global tech arena, silence is actually interpreted as having nothing to say, right? You have to learn to advocate your ideas, and you also have to learn to write clearly and concisely, because your emails, your Slack messages, your team messages, even your pull request description, whenever you make any pull request or whenever you push to any of these Git repositories, they are being read by people who have never met you, who cannot see your face, and who are forming their entire judgment of your competence based on the words on the screen. Now, a simple practice is, and I want to leave you with this, that every project you work on, write a one-page summary of what you've built, why you built it, what works, and what you've done differently. In the long run, you'll actually be surprised that as much as this sharpens your thinking, it also sharpens your writing, it also sharpens the way you see things, and also the way you develop systems. Now, moving forward, there's a third skill I also want to tell us today, which is actually system thinking. The world's most complex tech challenges are not technical problems, and they are actually the system problems. If you pick systems like, or problems like climate tech, fintech infrastructure, healthcare platform, supply chain optimization, these are not domains where you can actually optimize one component in isolation and call it a day. They require professionals who can see how every piece connects to every other piece, and how a change in one area creates a ripple effect everywhere else. Now, system thinking is the ability to hold complexity in your mind without being paralyzed by it. And it's actually the ability to identify leveraging points in your thought process. Now, these places where a small change produces a large outcome at the end of the day. And it is the ability to anticipate second and third order consequences in whatever you're building. One of my mentors, Peter Senge, in his landmark book, The Fifth Discipline, he argued that the system thinking is one core discipline of the learning organization, right? And this book was actually written in 1960, but we are in 2026 with AI reshaping the entire industry in tech almost overnight. Now, system thinking is not a nice to have, it's actually a survivor in year 2026. Develop it by studying fields outside of your own. If you are from a tech background, pick up fields like ecology, economics, urban planning, and even medicine, right? Ask yourself constantly, if I change this in this particular field, what else changes? Because when you talk about system thinking, you are not actually fixing problems in isolation. You are looking at the broader view of whatever you are fixing. Now, map out the systems that work in the stakeholders, the incentives, the feedbacks, the loops, right? The habits. This If you're actually able to do this will actually create an habits that make you extraordinary, valuable anywhere in the world. Now, moving on, we have the fourth skill that talks about learning agility. And this is actually talking about the speed of how you can actually adapt to things, your adaptation to things. And I want to be very direct about something today. The half-life of a specific technical skill today is shorter than it has ever been. Now, 5 years ago, knowing React, learning Java, learning C Sharp, and even learning any of these new programming languages like Golang, any of these JavaScript framework. Today, right, it's actually in 5 years before now, it was a strong, differentiator. But when you look at the world today, it is assumed, right? 3 years ago, knowing how to, write prompt AI tools was actually a novel. Now, in our present world, it's expected. Whatever specific tool or framework you are an expert in right now, assume that in the next 5 years, it will be either be automated, commoditized, or replaced. I'm going to take that again. Whatever skill set you have right now in year 2026, assume that in the next 3 to 5 years, that particular skill is either automated, commoditized, or replaced. And this is not actually a reason for you to panic today. It's a reason for you to invest in something more durable, which is the ability to learn quickly. Now, learning agility is your capacity to absorb new information, connect it to what you already know, and apply it usefully, faster than the average person. It is, in my own view, the single most future-proof skill in the tech industry. And the good news is that it is trainable. Deliberately, what I want you to do today is, going forward, put yourself in an uncomfortable learning situation. Learn a new programming language, not because you need it, right? But because it will expand the way you think. Read research journals, papers outside of your specialty. Engage in cutting edge even when it feels overwhelming. The professionals who will be globally competitive in the year 2030 are not the ones who have mastered today's stack, but they are the ones who have mastered the art of mastery itself, right? And going forward, we've talked about 3 of those skills, which are problem framing, communication, system thinking, thought actually, and learning agility. In our next slide, I want you to look at this question, and I want you to put the option that you feel is the right answer in the chat box. Now, a company tells its dev team, support tickets are exploding, build us a chatbot. A great tech professional first move is to, so look at the options and drop your answer in the chat box, and we'll take them one after the other to know which is the correct answer to this. Before we move on in today's learning.
We have a little bit of challenge. Okay. Gbeminiyi has given us something to work with. Can we respond? We have Eniola says in the chat box, he says he would go with B. B. I see B in the chat box.
All right. So B tells us that investigate why tickets are high even before you build anything. But let's look at the other options even before we pick our options. A says start designing the chatbot UI and pick the tech stack immediately. If you go back in the previous skill I was talking about, which deals with problem framing, we talk about you asking the question how, or you asking the question why, right? Even before you go to your how. And if you look at option A, it talks about an engineer going forward to even develop it even without understanding, why they need to build the chatbot. Now look at option B. It talks about investigating why tickets are high even before building it. This answers the question of the why, right? Asking the right questions so that you build smart and not the other way around. And why the other options, the C talks about request a larger budget. That's for the money aspect, which is obviously the wrong answer. And D talks about handing the tax over, right, to a more senior experienced person. Now, the correct answer here, as we've seen, and I believe everybody also know this, based on the answers on the chat box, the answer here is B. You need to investigate why tickets are high even before building anything. You need to understand the problem you are solving, and you also need to understand why you need to solve that problem. So moving forward, we have three more skills: collaborative intelligence, commercial awareness, and technical judgment. Now, for collaborative intelligence, this actually makes teams smarter. Here's a skill that often gets confused with team player, which is not the same thing at all, right? Being a team player means you show up, you don't cause drama, you do your part, which is more or less like the bare minimum and the baseline. It is necessary, but it is not the skill and I'm describing, which is the collaborative intelligence. Collaborative intelligence is something more powerful. It is the ability to make people around you more capable, and it's also the ability to create an environment where ideas flows freely, where conflict is productive rather than corrosive, where the output of the group consistently exceeds what any individual could produce alone, right? And when you look at distributed teams today, which is the increasingly how best teams in tech get done, collaborative intelligence is actually glued to what holds everything all together. When you cannot tap somebody on the shoulder, right? When you're working, let's say, across 5 different time zones, when your team members come from Brazil, India, Nigeria, and Germany, the person who actually knows how to build trust remotely, right? Who knows how to run a productive asynchronous conversations, and who knows how to give feedback that lands well across cultural contexts. That's the person that is worth their weight in gold. Invest in your emotional intelligence, invest in learning how to give and receive feedback, and invest in the art of unseen communication. I'm going to take that again. Invest in your emotional intelligence for collaborative intelligence. Invest in learning how to give and receive feedback, not just owning your technical skills, but ability to receive and also give feedback. Now, invest in the arts of unseen communication. These are not just soft skills, they are the hard skills of human collaboration. If you have all of these skills, believe you me, you'll be able to move ahead in your career path. Now, the 6 skills talk about the commercial awareness, understanding why money flows. Apart from you being a technical developer or a developer, a technical person, or anybody in whatever field you are in, you really need to know and understand why money flows. So I'm going to say something that is a little bit controversial in a room full of technical professionals. If you don't understand how your work connects to the business value, you will always be vulnerable wherever you find yourself. Now, this is not about becoming a business person, and this is about understanding that every company, whether it's a scrappy startup in Yaba or a Fortune 500 enterprise in New York, has a reason why it exists. Now, revenue it needs to generate and the cost it needs to manage. And the professionals who understand this connection between their work and the company's economic reality are actually the ones who get the seats at the table. Ability for you to connect the business value of whatever you're building into your technical skills. They're actually the ones that we are sorting out for in today's market. Now, commercial awareness means you understand your company's business model, you understand what the key performance indicators are, and you also understand why the CTO prioritizes one feature over another, and you also understand what it costs, right, to acquire a customer and what it means to retain that customer. Now, when you have this awareness, you stop thinking of yourself and someone who executes tasks and start thinking of yourself as someone who creates value, because you've been able to, connect all the dots together. And the people who create value are not easily replaced by automation and by cheaper labor, by anybody else. Now, develop these skills. Read your company's annual. How to develop this? How to develop these skills include reading your company's annual report, listen to any calls, read business journalism, talk to people in sales and marketing and finance, not to become them, but actually to understand how they operate. The bridge between technical excellence and business impact is one of the most undervalued places in the tech professional a tech professional can live in. Now, the seventh one, the skill that I'll be talking about today is the ethical judgment in technology, a new frontier. So I saved this for the last because I think it is one of the underestimated skill on the list, right, out of the 07, and the one that is about to become the most valuable. If you look at today's area where decisions are made by technical professionals, where consequences at a scale that previous generations of engineers never had to grapple with, an algorithm developed by a company, right, can influence what billions of people read, believe and do. When you look at the AI system today, the system is trained carelessly, can perpetrate injustice at massive speed. That's if it is trained carelessly. Now, a security vulnerability left unpatched, right, can compromise the financial data of an entire nation, because we live in a world whereby everything is now automated. Now, the global conversation about technical ethics, AI governance, data privacy, and algorithm fairness is no longer happening only in academic papers, right? Gone are the days whereby you pick up a academic journal and whatever you're reading there is just all about AI governance, data privacy, and algorithm fairness. It is actually happening now in our present world in boardrooms, and it is happening in parliament buildings. It's also shaping the regulations in the EU, United Nations, and increasingly across Africa, right? The tech professionals who will globally, indispensably in the next decade are those who can hold the technical and the ethical dimensions of their work simultaneously. Now, who can ask not just, can we build this, but should we build this, right? And if we do, how do we build it responsibly? Now, this is not about being a moralist, right? It is about being a complete professional. And frankly, as Africans, as people who have seen what it looks like when technology is designed, without even considering those who live in margins, we have a particular insight to offer, to offer this global conversation. Now, we have lived in consequences of system not designed for us. That lived knowledge is a form of expertise, and I want us today to use these skills, and this is what I mean by ethical judgment. In the next slide, I want us to take this challenge and also put the answer in the chat box. And the question is, the half-life of a specific tech skills is shrinking fast. What investment is most future-proof for a tech professional in 2026? So look at the options and put the answer in the chat.
Okay, we have another challenge, guys. So let's quickly take a look at this. We have 2 minutes to wrap up this session and we can ask questions. So let's quickly look at this and give our answers. Any answers? Oluwaseun says C. C. I see C in the comments. Mr. Gbeminiyi?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. When you look at option C, it talks about developing the ability to learn new skills quickly and ability to transfer knowledge. And that's actually the half-life of a specific test skills, right? And the future-proof aspect of it. Yeah, that's the correct answer. Yeah, going on because of time, thanks to everybody that answered that question, the option C, which is the correct answer. So before I close today, I want to talk about or speak to something more specific, right? Talking about the African context. We're in Lagos currently, and I don't think it is possible to talk about global competitiveness without talking about where we are actually standing in the African space. Africa is not actually a footnote in the global tech story. Africa is increasingly a chapter, and in the coming decades, if we're intentional, Africa can be one of the authors of the global tech space. So we have a median age of 19, and we have the fastest growing internet adoption on the planet. And we have cities like Lagos, Nairobi, Kigali, and Accra that's generating tech ecosystem with genuine global relevance. We have problems that are uniquely complex and uniquely important in agriculture, in healthcare, in financial inclusion, and in energy. That demands technological solution and that we produce globally transferable expertise. But I really want to be honest about something too. Potential is not destiny. And there is a gap, and it is a gap we have to, close deliberately between the raw talent that exists in this continent and the global competitiveness professional that talent can become. That gap is closed by skills we have been talking about so far, which are the 7 skills I've mentioned: by problem framing, by communication, by system thinking, by learning agility, and by ethical judgment. And here's what I believe with every part of my professional conviction. The African tech professionals who combines deep local knowledge with global skills is not just competitive, they are irreplaceable in the global tech space. Because we can actually build for markets that are the future of growth. Because we understand the complexity that tampered tech professionals in comfortable offices, whether in Silicon Valley or in Nigeria, we have never been able to navigate before, because they have had to be resourceful, adaptive, and resilient in ways that are built exactly the muscles of the global market is looking for. And our story is not a deficit story, it is an asset story, but we have to tell it and we have to back it up, right, with intelligence. One of the things I want to leave you with is on Monday morning, I don't want you to live with inspiration, without giving you an action. So let's be concrete. Monday morning, ask yourself, right? The first thing you need to do is audit your professional passport. Sit down this next week, starting from Monday, and honestly assess where you are, right? Using the 7 skills I've mentioned. Second, build in public. Write about your learning, share your project, post your thinking. The global market cannot pay attention to what it cannot see. Visibility is not vanity, it is actually strategy. I've seen a lot of professionals whereby they tell their stories on LinkedIn, through newsletters, even on their GitHub, public repositories on what they're actually working on, either on podcast or on LinkedIn, as I've mentioned earlier on. Now, the third thing I also want to tell you today is to seek discomfort deliberately. Volunteers for projects that you feel slightly unqualified for. Apply for roles that stresses you. Join the international community or open source projects where you'll be in the room where people that are more experienced than you are. And, growth lives outside of your comfort zone. And this is the shortcut around this. Now, the fourth one is invest in your writing. I've said this all over and over again when I was talking about communication. While the fifth one is find a community of excellence. And I want to close with these thoughts today, right? The world is not looking for average. The world has plenty of average. The world is looking for people who have done the inner work, the outer work to be truly excellent. People who are not just technical capable, but humanly matured, right? People who can build things with matter that matters and communicate why they matter. People who can lead, collaborate, learn, and adapt. Now, the skills I've described today are not the easiest skills to actually develop. They require time, they require humility, they require the willingness to be able to begin again and again, ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. But they are not the skills that are still, and they're actually the skills that are still relevant when the specific tools you use today are long obsolete. Now, you're sitting in one of the most dynamic cities, in one of the most dynamic continents, at one of the most dynamic moments in human history. The world is genuinely open to what African tech professionals can bring, what the windows for sizing, the moment is not infinite. So my challenge to you is this: go become someone whose skills can travel, not because you want to live, but because the deepest form of excellence is in the kind that is recognized everywhere, right? Build a professional passport, as I said earlier on, stamp it with problem framing, with clear communication, with system thinking, with learning agility, with collaborative intelligence, with commercial awareness, and with ethical judgment. And then walk confidently into every room you find yourself today, because the room is actually ready for you. Thank you very much.
Let's give a round of applause for Mr. Gbeminiyi. That was a very beautiful and very, very interesting presentation. I am sure that we learned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things from that presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. Gbeminiyi. Do we have any questions? If you have any questions, kindly put them in the chat box. Yes, I have somebody's hand up. Do you have a question? Okay, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. We can take 1 or 2 questions. Otherwise, please put it in the chat box and I will read your question out. In 1 minute, Miracle, please ask your question. Hi, Miracle, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good day. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gbeminiyi, for this very insightful presentation. As a medical professional, tech is quite new to me, and it's going to be more of self-learning for me, actually, due to my schedule. So my question is, what role does formal education play versus self-directed learning? Seeing as I'll be competing with tech professionals that have had like a formal education like computer science. So how do I compete with that? Since more of since it's going to be more of self-learning for me.
That's a brilliant question. Thank you, Miracle.
Yeah, that's like you said, a brilliant question. And I will tell you what I actually believe, and not what is comfortable to say, right? Formal education, as you've said, does things that self-directed learning cannot easily replicate. Now, it gives you what we call the structural thinking, right? The discipline of following an argument to its conclusion, the habits of rigor, and it also gives you the network. Imagine coming from a university, you have people that you can, express your thought process with, and also the network of people, in that space. Now, the people you meet in your university program, let's say especially in your, let's say, graduate level, often shape the trajectory of your career for decades. I have a whole lot of friends today that I still talk to, not just because we find ourselves in the tech space, but because we can actually, relate to so many things that we do today in the tech space. And it gives you the credentials that skills functions as signals in certain markets. Now, for someone like you that's coming from a medical background into the tech space, one of the things I want to say to you is get certification in whatever you want to learn. The tech community is actually wide for you to pick your skills in. Get certifications in it. Get to know the who is who in the industry, and also because of how big the space is, know what you want to do and understand yourself. I normally used to tell people that first of all, understand why you are coming to tech. Understand the position or the gap you want to fill. And with this, you also will be able to leverage on people that you're also going to meet in that, what's it called, learning space. And it's actually a good thing if you like to cross to tech, and you can always reach out to me later, and we can, forge ahead and give a part on how you can move smoothly into tech. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Miracle. Do we have any other questions? Do we have any other questions from the audience? Okay, I have a question. Do I need to learn AI skills to stay relevant as a developer?
All right. I believe that's also a question that any one of us today will like to ask, because the world is moving, day by day, in terms of AI, in terms of automation, in terms of machine learning, and in terms of, skills. Even there's some technical skills today that if you are not careful, in the next few years, they are actually obsolete. Now, to your question, do you really need to learn AI in today's world? I'll tell you for a fact, yes, you need to learn it, because you don't want to be caught up in the sphere of, oh, whatever you know today is not actually obtainable in the world we find ourselves. And that's why you have to really, really have the ability to upskill wherever you find yourself. Either you're in agriculture, healthcare, even in tech, right? Time over time, you need to upskill, you need to learn the trends, and you also need to know how to apply whatever you're learning in whatever you're doing. So yes, you need to learn it, and for whatever you're doing with it.
Okay, thank you very much. So if you are a developer, if you're trying to go into tech, please make sure that you learn AI skills. Okay, I have another question. Mimi, how important is collaboration in becoming a global competitive technology professional? These days we always hear collaborate. So how important is collaboration?
I want to start with it is absolutely essential, if I'm going to use that word. Modern software is really built by one person, as we have today, and engineers work with designers, global product managers, QA engineers, DevOps teams, security specialists, and even the business stakeholders. Now, the ability to communicate, clearly, receive feedback, resolve disagreements professionally, and work effectiveness across cultures is often what actually distinguishes you from being a senior engineer and also from a junior one, right? Technical competence gets you noticed, but collaboration actually earns your trust, like I said earlier on, and trust creates leadership opportunities. So it is really important that you need to learn the art of collaboration in becoming a global competitive technology professional.
Much, Bimini. Thank you. I have one last question. Do I have any more questions from the audience? Any more questions before I ask my last question? Okay, my question is, what is the biggest mistake developers can make when trying to scale their products? What is the biggest mistake developers can make when trying to scale their products?
Because I'm also thinking about that, because I happen to also be a developer, and looking at the years of experience, one of the biggest mistake is optimizing too early or designing for millions of users even before solving the actual problem. Now, many teams, what we do today is over-engineer systems, right? Instead of building something simple, reliable, and maintaining first. Now, another common mistake that I've seen today is ignoring the observability, right? Without proper mentoring, logging metrics, and testing, right? Even as software engineers, scaling becomes a guesswork. And whenever you come to that you need to scale your system, you always have what we call the guesswork. Now, scaling is actually not about handling more traffic. It is about ensuring reliability, maintainability, even security, right? System security, and a great user experience, because at the end of the day, is these same users that are still going to use your systems.
Okay, thank you very much, Bimini. This has been a very, very insightful session. Do I have any questions from anybody? Any questions? Okay, Bimini, do you have any final words?
Final words for me is go out there, own your skill, be a top professional wherever field you find yourself, and be able to communicate and be able to, give out your skill to the global tech market. Thank you, everybody, for having me today.
Thank you. Can we please put our hands together for Gbeminiyi and say thank you in the comments, because he has given us a beautiful presentation. I think I see somebody asking if the slide is going to be made available. Gbeminiyi, is that possible? Would the presentation slide be made available for people to go back and read through?
Yes, since we already have their emails, for people that register, we can send this slide across to everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. Miracle, do not forget Mr. Gbeminiyi has offered a hand to put you through your transition. So reach out to him. And also, if you registered for this meeting, you're going to be getting a mail with the presentation slides, so you can look through in your spare time. Again, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Gbeminiyi. This has been a very insightful session, and we are very grateful to have had you on the call. Thank you very much, and may have a good night, everybody.